Let me tell you this, being stupid isn't permanent, but staying stupid, that's a choice. And if you're a woman listening to this thinking, damn, I've done some of those things, good. That means you're aware now. And awareness is where transformation begins. Self-awareness is power, a truth that echoes across every experience, every challenge, and every triumph in a woman's journey. It is the inner light that guides her through the darkest nights and fuels her resilience when the world seems intent on dimming her shine. When a woman truly understands herself, her strengths, her weaknesses, her dreams, and her fears, she unlocks a reservoir of potential that no external circumstance can ever diminish. Self-awareness is not just a fleeting moment of introspection. It is a lifelong commitment to knowing who you are at your core and embracing every facet of your being, no matter how imperfect it may seem. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast ocean, with every wave symbolizing a new insight into your own nature. Each ripple is a revelation, a moment where you confront a part of yourself that you might have long ignored or misunderstood. With every new understanding comes the ability to navigate life's unpredictable currents with grace and determination. This power is not something granted by society or bestowed by fortune. It is something earned through persistent introspection and the courage to face your inner truths. It means challenging the narratives that have been imposed on you and questioning the beliefs that have held you back, all while forging a path that is uniquely your own. When a woman is self-aware, she recognizes the patterns in her life that have shaped her behavior, both positive and negative. She is no longer a prisoner of her past mistakes or a victim of her fears. Instead, she uses these experiences as stepping stones to build a better future. In moments of doubt, she can look inward and find the strength that lies within. This power comes from the acceptance of her imperfections, understanding that vulnerability is not a weakness but a gateway to growth and transformation. It is through this acceptance that she learns to trust herself, knowing that her intuition and judgment are the most reliable compasses on her journey. This self-acknowledge empowers her to set boundaries and to honor her own needs without apology. When she knows her worth, she does not allow others to diminish her light. She understands that the opinions of those who do not share her vision or respect her journey are not a measure of her value. Instead, she creates a space where her voice can be heard and her choices can be celebrated, regardless of whether they conform to conventional expectations. In this way, self-awareness becomes a form of rebellion, a powerful act of reclaiming one's identity and refusing to be defined by external forces. Furthermore, self-awareness nurtures compassion, not just for oneself, but also for others. When you understand your own struggles, your own moments of weakness and strength, you are better equipped to empathize with the journeys of those around you. This empathy is the foundation of genuine connections, allowing you to build relationships that are based on mutual respect and understanding. It teaches you that everyone is fighting their own battles, and that true empowerment comes from lifting each other up rather than tearing each other down. In this sense, self-awareness transcends personal growth. It becomes a beacon of hope and a catalyst for collective transformation. In the face of criticism and adversity, a self-aware woman does not crumble under the weight of external judgment. Instead, she uses it as an opportunity to reflect and grow, knowing that every experience, no matter how challenging, holds a lesson. She is resilient because she understands that her self-worth is not contingent upon the validation of others. This inner strength allows her to persevere even when the road ahead is fraught with obstacles. She embraces the reality that mistakes are inevitable, but they do not define her. Rather, they are simply chapters in the larger story of her life, stories that she writes with intention, courage, and unwavering determination. The journey to self-awareness is not an easy one. It requires honesty, vulnerability, and the willingness to face parts of yourself that may be uncomfortable. Yet, every step taken in that direction is a victory in itself. It is the recognition that you are more than the sum of your experiences, more than the labels and limitations that society may try to impose upon you. It is the realization that true power comes from within, from an unshakable belief in your own ability to shape your destiny. With each layer of self-discovery, you become more adept at navigating the complexities of life, and more confident in your ability to transform challenges into opportunities for growth. Ultimately, self-awareness is the foundation of all lasting change. It is the lens through which you view your life and the world around you, and it empowers you to create the reality you desire. By embracing every part of yourself and recognizing your inherent worth, you set the stage for a life of authenticity, passion, and boundless possibility. In this inner journey, you find the true essence of power, a power that is as timeless as it is transformative, capable of lighting up even the darkest corners of your life. If you're staying in a bad relationship just to say you're not alone, you're not choosing love, you're choosing fear, and fear is the most dangerous place to live. Because it convinces you to settle. It whispers lies into your ear, telling you that this is the best you can get, that being with someone, anyone, is better than being alone. But let me tell you, there is nothing lonelier than lying next to someone who makes you feel unseen, unheard, and unloved. That kind of emptiness cuts deeper than silence, and too many women stay, not because they're weak, but because they've been told a woman without a man is incomplete. That her value comes from being chosen, even if the choice was wrong. We are taught to endure, to sacrifice, to be the nurturer, the fixer, the one who holds it all together. And while those qualities can be beautiful, they become dangerous when we start to believe that enduring pain is proof of love. It's not. Staying in a place where your spirit is shrinking, where your dreams are dismissed, where your voice is silenced, that's not love. That's survival. And we weren't born to merely survive. We were born to live fully, to love freely, and to rise fiercely. The truth is, a relationship is not a badge of honor. It's not a trophy. It's not something you hold on to impress your friends or fulfill a social checkbox. It's a mirror. It should reflect your growth, your peace, your joy. If it reflects your pain more than your power, something is wrong. And yet, women often stay because they confuse longevity with success, as if staying longer somehow proves their worth, as if walking away is failure. But walking away, when done in love for yourself, is one of the most courageous things you can ever do. And here's the thing about loneliness. It's not cured by someone else's presence. It's cured by your own presence. If you can't sit with yourself and feel whole, no amount of company will fill that space. Being alone doesn't mean you're broken. It means you've cleared space. And in that space, you heal, you rebuild, you rediscover. Because being alone gives you the clarity to see what you've been tolerating. It gives you the strength to realize that you don't need a half-love, a part-time partner, or a warm body that brings cold energy. You need depth, you need respect, you need peace. And none of that comes from someone who only shows up halfway. The world might tell you that a woman is at her best when she is wanted. But I say a woman is at her best when she wants herself. When she wakes up and chooses her own happiness. Even if that means choosing herself over a relationship. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is leave, not with bitterness, not with drama, but with grace, with truth, with the quiet power of someone who finally sees her own worth. So if you're in something that hurts more than it heals, that takes more than it gives, I want you to ask yourself, why are you staying? Is it love or is it fear? Is it growth or is it guilt? Is it hope or is it habit? Because you deserve more than someone who just occupies space in your life. You deserve someone who sees you, values you, and grows with you. And if that person isn't the one you're with, then maybe, just maybe, the love you've been looking for is the one you've been denying yourself. You are not hard to love. You are not too much. You are not unworthy of a love that feels like home. But you'll never find it if you keep settling in houses built on sand. Build something solid with yourself first. Because once you do, you'll never again stay in a place that doesn't feel like love. You'll never again choose fear over freedom. And you'll never again confuse being chosen with being cherished. You're allowed to outgrow people. You're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to demand more. And above all, you are allowed to be alone while you wait for something real. That's not failure. That's power, and that's a power no one can take from you. When a woman competes with other women, instead of collaborating, she betrays the very power she's trying to claim. There's a lie that's been whispered into our ears since we were little girls. A lie that says there's only room for one of us at the top, that her success somehow threatens yours, that her shine makes you dimmer. And so we compare, we judge, we envy. But what we don't realize is that comparison is the thief of sisterhood. It's a poison that turns potential allies into silent enemies. It makes you see every other woman as a threat instead of a mirror. And that's exactly how the world wants it. Divide us so we're too busy fighting each other to fight for ourselves. But let me say this, a woman who knows her worth doesn't see other women as competition. She sees them as comrades, as co-creators, as a reflection of what's possible. Because when you're truly rooted in your purpose, when you're grounded in your own unique voice, someone else's win doesn't feel like a loss, it feels like proof. Proof that success is possible, that doors can open, that dreams can come true. You don't have to dim her light to make yours shine brighter. Light doesn't work that way. If anything, the more light you surround yourself with, the more you all glow. Still, we live in a culture that feeds on scarcity, a culture that teaches women to be the cool girl, the number one, the pick-me, a culture that makes us believe we are replaceable and that our value lies in how much attention we can command. So of course we're on edge, of course we want to prove we're better. But this kind of proving is exhausting. It makes us wear masks. It makes us chase validation instead of purpose. And it builds walls where there should be bridges. We've all seen it happen. In boardrooms, in friend groups, on social media. One woman gets an opportunity and instead of celebrating her, others whisper behind her back, she doesn't deserve it, she must have done something to get it. That energy, it's rooted in insecurity. It's not about her. It's about what you think is missing in you. Because when you're secure, when you know what you bring to the table, you don't question another woman's seat. You clap for her. You pull up your own chair. And if there's not enough room, you build a bigger table. There's nothing more powerful than women who uplift each other, who look each other in the eye and say, I see you, who celebrate each other's wins like they're their own. That kind of sisterhood is magnetic, it's unstoppable, it's revolutionary, and it doesn't mean you always agree. It doesn't mean you'll all move the same way. It means you respect the grind, the struggle, and the hustle in each other, even if your paths are different. Competing with another woman doesn't make you stronger, it just makes you lonelier. It isolates you in a world that's already trying to tell you you're not enough. But when you choose to collaborate, to share, to open up space, you realize that power multiplies when it's shared. You realize that her rise can actually be part of yours. Because women supporting women, that's a force nothing can touch. And if you've ever felt jealous, you're not alone. It's human. But jealousy should be a clue, not a compass. Ask yourself, what is her success showing me about what I desire? What is her journey awakening in me? That self-reflection can turn envy into inspiration. Instead of resenting her, learn from her. Instead of tearing her down, reach out and build a connection. You'd be surprised how much further you'll go when you stop running a race that was never meant to be a competition. You don't need to be the only one. You just need to be the real one. The one who walks in authenticity, the one who lifts while she climbs, the one who isn't afraid to say, I see your power and I'm not threatened by it. I'm fueled by it. That's the kind of woman who changes the game, not by beating others, but by bringing them with her. And that's real success. When a woman lets others define her worth, she hands over her power without even realizing it. She starts to live according to the lens through which others view her, adjusting herself constantly to meet expectations that don't even belong to her. One moment she's trying to be likable, the next she's trying to be desirable, and soon she's a patchwork of what everyone else wants her to be. But in trying to please the world, she loses herself. She becomes a version of someone else's idea of value, not her own truth. And the saddest part is, many don't even notice they're doing it. They wake up every day chasing approval like it's oxygen, never asking if the people they're trying to impress even matter. It starts subtly, a comment from a family member, a criticism from a partner, a rejection at work. The voice of self-doubt begins to echo in her mind, slowly replacing her own inner voice. She stops trusting her instincts. She stops listening to the whisper of her soul. Instead, she starts asking everyone else for permission to speak, to dream, to shine. And what happens when you do that long enough? You forget how powerful you were before the world told you to shrink. You forget that your worth isn't up for debate. It was never something to be voted on. It was always inherent. It was always yours. When you let other people define your worth, you live on a roller coaster. One compliment lifts you high, one criticism brings you crashing down. You become addicted to validation, checking your phone for likes, replaying conversations in your head, wondering if you said the right thing, wore the right outfit, made the right impression. It's exhausting and it's never enough, because external validation is like sugar. It gives you a rush, but it doesn't nourish you. Real worth is like water. It sustains you, it's quiet, it's consistent, and it can only be found within. No one can define you unless you allow them to. But here's the catch. Sometimes the people who try to define you aren't your enemies. They're your friends, your family, even your partner. They tell you what's best for you. They label you too loud, too ambitious, too emotional. And because you love them, you believe them, you start to edit yourself. You start to mute your brilliance just to keep the peace. But shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's comfort zone will never bring you peace. It will only make you resentful, disconnected, and hollow. Your light is not too much. Their dimness is not your responsibility. When a woman decides to reclaim the power of self-definition, everything changes. She stops asking others to name her value. She creates it, she embodies it, she walks into rooms with certainty, not because she needs everyone to agree with her, but because she knows who she is, whether they clap or not. And that kind of presence is unshakable, it's magnetic. It disrupts every room she walks into because people can feel it. The confidence that's not borrowed, not performative, but real, rooted, authentic. There's no blueprint for being you don't have to follow the crowd, wear a specific label, speak in a certain tone, or meet a timeline laid out by society. Worth has nothing to do with what you've achieved and everything to do with who you choose to be. You could be single, married, rich, struggling, visible, or low-key. Your worth is not situational, it's spiritual, it's personal, and it can't be taken unless you give it away. So the next time someone tries to put a label on you, pause. Ask yourself, does this align with who I know myself to be, or is it a projection of their own limitations? And if it doesn't fit, don't wear it. You don't owe anyone a version of yourself that makes them comfortable. You owe yourself a life that reflects your truth. And the people who truly love you, they won't need to define you. They'll just support you as you define yourself. You are not here to be liked by everyone. You are here to be real, to be bold, to be free. And that kind of freedom starts the moment you decide, I am enough as I am. I define my worth, and I no longer need permission to shine. When a woman refuses to grow, she chooses comfort over becoming. She clings to the familiar, even when it no longer serves her, simply because change feels scary. Growth is uncomfortable, it's uncertain, and it often requires letting go of the very things that once made us feel safe. But the truth is, nothing great ever comes from staying the same. When you avoid growth, you're not preserving yourself. You're pausing your evolution. You're keeping your wings folded, convinced the ground is safer than the sky. And that's not where power lives. Power lives in risk, in resilience, in the willingness to outgrow the version of yourself you once thought was final. You see, it's easy to stay the same. It's easy to live by routines that ask nothing new of you. It's easy to surround yourself with people who never challenge you, who validate your excuses, and who applaud your stagnation. But ease isn't always peace. Sometimes it's a cage dressed up as comfort. Growth demands honesty. It asks you to look at yourself, really look, and confront the habits, mindsets, and beliefs that are keeping you small. It's easier to blame others. It's easier to point fingers at the world, at your past, at your circumstances. But growth starts when you say, maybe it's me. Maybe I need to evolve. Maybe I can do better. The women who grow, truly grow, aren't always the ones with the most resources or opportunities. They're the ones who choose curiosity over pride, who ask the hard questions, who aren't afraid to be beginners again. Because the willingness to grow means accepting that you don't have it all figured out, that sometimes what worked yesterday won't work today, that the version of you who survived once isn't the same version who will thrive tomorrow. That's the secret. What kept you alive might now be what's holding you back. And you have to be brave enough to release it. Refusing to grow often comes from fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of losing people. But what about the fear of staying stuck? What about the fear of waking up one day realizing you've been living the same year over and over, calling it a life? Growth is messy. It means making mistakes. It means trying and falling and trying again. But in every fall, there's a lesson. In every failure, there's a seed of transformation. And every time you rise after falling, you come back stronger, wiser, more aware. Some women get stuck in roles that were never meant to be permanent. They play the same identity for years. Maybe it's the selfless mother, the dependable daughter, the quiet girlfriend, the loyal friend. And while those roles are beautiful, they're not all of who she is. A woman is allowed to expand. She's allowed to evolve beyond the titles others give her. She's allowed to become someone new. But that requires stepping into the unknown. And not everyone around you will clap for your growth. In fact, some people will try to hold you back, not because they hate you, but because your growth threatens the comfort of their expectations. And that's okay. Growth will often require walking alone for a while, but you'll meet yourself there. The woman who refuses to grow eventually becomes resentful, not just of others, but of herself. Deep down, she knows she's capable of more, but every day she chooses comfort, her spirit shrinks a little, her dreams become quieter, her voice trembles when it used to roar. But it's never too late. Growth doesn't come with a deadline. You can choose it at 18 or you can choose it at 48. The timeline is yours. What matters is the decision. The moment you stop waiting to feel ready and just move. Growth isn't about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you are underneath the fear, the conditioning, the limitations. It's about peeling back the layers and returning to the truth that you were always meant for more. More love, more peace, more power. And that the life you dream about is not as far away as it feels. It's just on the other side of your comfort zone. So when you feel that pull, that quiet inner nudge telling you to grow, listen. That's your future self calling. Don't let her wait forever. When a woman constantly seeks attention instead of respect, she sells herself short. Attention is easy to get. It's loud, it's flashy, and it's often instant. But respect? That's earned. That's deep. That's lasting. And there's a dangerous trap in confusing the two, because in a world that rewards visibility over value, it's tempting to chase the spotlight instead of building substance. It's tempting to think that being seen is the same as being valued, but attention fades, respect remains. And when you build your life on the pursuit of attention, you end up with applause but no foundation, fans but no fulfillment. We live in a time where validation is one scroll away, where a woman can post a picture, get hundreds of likes, and mistake that dopamine hit for real self-worth. But that kind of attention is addictive. It teaches you to keep performing, to keep adjusting yourself to what others find appealing. You start living for the reaction instead of the reality. You measure your worth in numbers, in compliments, in how many heads turn when you walk into a room. But none of that means anything if people don't respect who you are when the lights are off and the makeup's gone. Respect is rooted in character, in how you carry yourself when no one is watching, in the standards you set and the boundaries you protect. It's in your consistency, your kindness, your integrity. It's not just how you look, it's how you show up. And the truth is, you teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. If you settle for attention, that's all you'll get. People will enjoy your presence, but never value your essence. They'll admire your image, but never invest in your depth. And you'll wonder why it always feels so empty. Seeking attention is about wanting to be noticed. But being respected is about being remembered. It's about leaving a mark that goes beyond physical beauty or surface level charm. It's about being the kind of woman who commands a room, not by how much she reveals, but by how much she knows, how fiercely she speaks, and how gracefully she moves. That kind of presence doesn't ask for attention. It earns respect without even trying. And let's be real, attention is a fickle currency. The same people who cheer for you today will find someone else to applaud tomorrow. Trends change, beauty fades, hype dies. But the way you made someone feel, the strength in your voice, the principles you live by, that's what people remember. That's what builds legacy. That's what makes you unforgettable. There's nothing wrong with being visible. There's nothing wrong with being celebrated. But when your entire sense of self is tied to whether or not people are looking at you, you become a prisoner to their gaze. You lose your center. You forget your voice. And before you know it, you're living a life that's curated, not created. A life built for approval, not authenticity. A respected woman knows that real power isn't in being the most desired, it's in being the most disciplined, the most focused, the most unshakable. She knows that respect doesn't come from exposure, it comes from excellence, from the way she honors herself, from the way she walks away from things that don't align, from the way she doesn't settle for cheap praise when she knows her soul craves deeper meaning. If all you want is attention, you'll get it, but it will never satisfy you. Because attention doesn't see you, it scans you, it consumes you, and then it moves on. But respect? Respect sees your fire and doesn't flinch. It acknowledges your mind, it listens to your voice, it shows up for your truth. And the moment you stop trying to be liked and start demanding to be respected, everything shifts. The people you attract change, the way you speak changes, the energy you walk with becomes different. You no longer chase, you choose. You no longer beg to be seen, you become impossible to ignore. So ask yourself, do you want to be watched or do you want to be witnessed? Do you want to be popular or do you want to be powerful? One fades, the other builds empires. When a woman blames the world instead of taking responsibility for her life, she unknowingly chooses to stay stuck. It's easier, isn't it, to point the finger, to say it's because of them, it's how I was raised, it's the system, or they never gave me a chance. And while the world is far from fair and while injustice is real, staying in that place of blame robs you of the one thing you actually control, your response, the way you show up, the choices you make, the work you put in, the limits you refuse to accept. Blame may feel good in the moment, but it does nothing to change your circumstances. It just keeps you bitter, small, and waiting for someone else to fix what only you can heal. There's something that happens the moment a woman takes full responsibility for her life. She stops waiting for apologies. She stops expecting the world to hand her justice. She stops obsessing over who did what to her. Instead, she looks in the mirror and says, okay, that happened, but now what? That's not weakness. That's courage. That's power. That's the moment she steps out of the passenger seat and puts her hands on the wheel. Because blaming the world is passive. It's reaction. Responsibility is active. It's creation. And that shift from reaction to creation is what separates women who evolve from women who remain stuck in their story. Some people live their entire lives in the same narrative. I would have done more if I had better parents, a better partner, more money, more support. But the truth is, the most powerful women in the world were not handed ideal conditions. They just refused to let their pain become their prison. They refused to let their scars speak louder than their voice. And they knew that taking responsibility doesn't mean denying what hurt you. It means refusing to let it define you. It means transforming your wounds into wisdom and your setbacks into stepping stones. When you constantly blame others, you give them control over your future. You say, you hurt me, so now I can't move forward. But what if the power to move on isn't in their hands? What if it never was? When you claim responsibility, you start rewriting the story. You stop living in reaction to what happened, and you start living in alignment with what you want to happen. You stop waiting for conditions to be perfect. You start asking, what can I do with what I have right now? Let's be real. It's hard to own your stuff. It's hard to admit that sometimes we've been our own biggest obstacle, that we stayed too long in places we outgrew, that we ignored red flags, that we played small because we were scared, not because someone held us back. That kind of honesty stings, but it also frees you, because once you know it's on you, you also realize it's up to you. Your growth, your healing, your next chapter, all yours. There's a quiet confidence in women who own their choices, even the messy ones. They don't hide behind blame. They don't make excuses. They say, yes, that was me, and I've grown from it. They apologize when needed, not because they're weak, but because they're strong enough to take accountability. They don't need to be perfect. They just need to be real. And in that realness, there's transformation. But society teaches women to shrink, to be polite, to play victim when it's convenient, and to avoid rocking the boat. Responsibility? That's not always encouraged, because a woman who owns her power is a threat. She doesn't rely on others for direction. She doesn't wait for permission. She moves, she creates, she leads. And that makes people uncomfortable. But that's exactly the kind of woman the world needs. One who stops blaming and starts building. So if you're in a place where nothing seems to be working, pause and ask, where am I handing away my power? What can I do differently? Even a small shift matters. Owning your role in your story doesn't make you wrong, it makes you unstoppable. Because now you're not just surviving, you're designing. You're not just reacting, you're rising. And no one, not your past, not your pain, not even the people who let you down, can take that away from you.